Hi, my name's Don. Welcome back to Project Urtle. In this episode I'm still waiting for my body kit to arrive, and so I'm a little bit bored. I decided I would make some taillights. Why would I make taillights, you might say? Well, because I'm bored and because I can. I didn't really like all the things that were available on the market. I thought maybe I could do something that pleased me a little more. Part of the interest in this episode was trying out a new technique to make a carbon fibre piece that is pretty much backwards to how it would normally be done. I can't claim any originality for this. I pinched it from a YouTube that I watched where an upholsterer who was doing custom interiors in cars wanted to cover some components of the dashboard and door sills, etc. in the car with carbon fibre, and he basically just overlaid the existing pieces with carbon fibre. He used an interesting technique of gluing the carbon fibre to the part and then coating it in epoxy, and I'm going to try doing a slight variation on that. I've just started with a piece of MDF and some little timber edge strips to give me a rough shape. If I bring this in closer, you get an idea of what I'm talking about. I've run a little bit of filler in along the edge to try and get a radius in there. I might build that up a bit more yet. I'm trying to get a radius around all these corners of around about 6 millimeters. I'm worried about radius diameter is that the carbon fibre cloth doesn't bend easily around a tighter radius than about 6 millimeters. It's a little stiff, and so if I want the carbon fibre to sit down tight against the mould, I'm going to have a radius that allows it to do that. Otherwise it'll just take a shortcut and pull away from the mould and give me a non-uniform shape. So to give you an idea of where I'm headed, I bought these taillight units, LED, from my major purchasing source, eBay, and they're going to sit like this. You've got to imagine that the background is black, and so we've got a stop tail light, an indicator light, a reversing light, and then a pair of number plate lights sitting in there somehow, and then a reflector in there. That's going to sit about like that. Now, one of the reasons I particularly liked those light assemblies, and but the drawback on those was that every one of them required 2 screw holes and another hole through the back to take the wires. So that's 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 holes in the back of my camper. And I wasn't real keen on that. What if one of them breaks, I change my mind, I don't like them, something like that? I'm left with 14 holes that I've then got to deal with somehow. Yes, I could have bought one full taillight assembly and screwed it on and walked away, and it would have been a lot easier and quicker. But I do have some time. I'm still waiting for my body panels from Styromax, and so I'm filling in the time, I hope profitably. And so all the lights will be mounted to this one panel, and then there'll be one hole in the body for all the wires to go through, and maybe 4 small screw holes to mount this panel to it. So I'm down from 14 or 15 holes to 5, which I can live with. Okay, I'm just going to mix up a little bit of West System epoxy resin. Okay, this needs a good stir for at least a minute or longer, and I need to make sure that I get it completely mixed. So that's mixed. I'm using a disposable bristle brush. Okay, I'm just giving this a light sand to knock off any little hickeys, and then we'll give it a half a dozen coats of mould release wax. This is the wax I'm using, honey wax. And this needs to be rubbed on relatively thickly. Okay, I've put a couple of very heavy coats of release wax on. Now I'm just wiping on a thin layer of PVA mould release, and I'll do several coats of this as well. I'm going to do something that I've never done before. I did some research on YouTube the other night about making carbon fibre pieces, and one of the problems is to get that carbon fibre to sit down nice and neat, and you get sticky and wet with epoxy, etc. So I've got a couple of coats of wax on there, a couple of coats of PVA on there. Now I'm going to spray it with a little bit of spray adhesive, and then I'm going to put the carbon fibre on dry. So let's see how this goes. Okay. What I'm trying to do is to get that carbon fibre to lay down perfectly. Now the problem's going to be in the corners, I'm sure. So far it's sticking there. See if I can persuade wait it to come around this corner. Possible. It's going to work. Okay, let's clean up a little bit. Okay, let's try, see how we go. Okay, well that's set overnight and looks good. I'm going to cut off the excess around the edges. Okay, let's see if we can get it off. Okay, the edges are free. It's coming. You can hear the right noises. Right, we have a winner. Okay, that's just the shell, and eventually I'll put it back on here and finish another couple of coats of epoxy on the surface, and then I'll reinforce it on the inside. Starting to get a bit of an idea of what this carbon fibre is going to look like when it's finished. I've taken my carbon fibre skin, and unfortunately I forgot to video this bit, but I've cut a piece of foam board and glued it into the back of the carbon fibre skin using epoxy with some microfiber filler, and made what was a very flimsy carbon fibre skin into something that's solid, hard. Now, okay, I don't know whether you can see that. Let's bring it in a bit closer and see if that helps. But you can see I've started to flatten it off. The dull spots are where I've taken the tops off. The shiny spots are still hollows, and I need to get down to the other one, if you like. Here's one I prepared earlier, and that's got a uniform flat matte surface. There are still a few little shiny bits where I haven't gone down deep enough, but I'm worried that I'm going to break through to the carbon fibre. In fact, I did in this spot here. You can see I've gone right through, but hopefully that'll be under one of the light strips that are going to get mounted here, so it won't be obvious. Now, inevitably, when you're painting epoxy over a surface like this, it runs down vertical surfaces and collects as a little lip bead along this bottom edge, and I found that you can sand all day and you're left with a concave piece just behind that lip. So what I've found is that a cabinet scraper does a pretty good job of taking that lip off, giving you a nice flat straight edge. Okay, so there's the board rough sanded at this point in time. It's ready for paint, but I'm not going to paint it until I've put drilled all the holes and anything that might just ruin the surface finish. So these are okay, that's going to work. Here I'm using some clear acrylic top coat, normally used in the automotive industry, to just bring out that lovely carbon fibre look. Okay. Okay, so they're all fitted. Now I have to do the wiring. As you can see, I routed out some channels in the back of the foam board, which allows me to run the wires in below the surface of the board. Soldered up all the pieces, and then I've added a piece of multi-core cable with Australian standard wire colours, and that'll allow me to relatively easily wire this up when the time comes. So that's it. That's the finished product and the end of this particular episode. Please like it and give me a thumbs up if that's good for you, and maybe think about subscribing.